Hello and welcome to journal entry number 9. The main topics I will be discussing today are deepening your characters and their story arcs, as well as plot points. Now, when writing a script and when you start to plan out what your characters are going to say and their journey, it's very, very important that you have an arc for these characters, meaning, which I'll get into later, but having your characters deepened is a good thing for your narrative, as well as having plot points throughout the entire film. So the movie I picked today, it kind of reminded me a little bit of one of Quentin Tarantino's works, which I'll discuss later, but um, kind of like the film I'm going to talk about or connect with this film. It reminds me a lot of, conjoining stories that come all together in one. And that's really the best way I can say it. So, the main definitions for this week, deepening characters and arcs. Arcs essentially revolve around where a character begins and where a character ends, and his journey or her journey throughout the entire film, and how their character can go from being cynical and oppressive to finally learning a lesson and then becoming a good person towards the end. And plot points essentially are stories that are developed throughout the film, introduced at certain points that also have to end at certain points. And that one can really be a big hoop. It's a big jumble of stuff, basically. The purposes of these concepts, really, they really are the striving points for your movie. They help your movie come through, and they really help your movie be set in stone as to what it's trying to tell you and the audience, its messages as well, and how um, they can be done. And anybody can recognize these when you see, like, for example, the Lego Batman movie, how Batman goes from this self-obsessed jerk to this caring father in the end. That is an arc. That is something that you would see him trying to traverse through this journey to being that caring father. And plot points, like numerous things, like bringing up like this character involved with this problem that has to be resolved at the end, or this character involved with another problem that's unrelated to the first point that has to be carried out at the end. So you can tell where they come just by the fact that they sometimes come from nowhere, but other times from good movies, they can come from very good beginnings. And the advantages of characters and their arcs is they can be done really well. You can see a true transition, like I said, of Lego Batman from going from a jerk to a good father in the end. And sometimes, however, sometimes those arcs can sometimes, take really not work. They can sometimes fall flat, and you feel like, well, I just invested this my time into this character for no reason because I don't know if he's changed or not at the end. And with plot points, the best strategies, the best advantages for plot points is that they can help tell very different stories for different people. However, the big disadvantage of that is a lot. It's a lot of stuff. Is you can't have too much of it, or it's just all over the place. You have to resolve it. Otherwise, it's just a looming question in people's heads on whether or not should I really focus on this story. And then, as well as number three, is that they just can't be random. They just can't be brought up out of nowhere. They have to actually have a focus on the story and have it tie into the story in some way, shape, or form. And the best strategy you can have when making these theories is when you're writing your characters, always think from the beginning, how is this character's journey going to go? How is this going to go through? And it's the same thing with plot points. We're going to start here. How is it going to end? We're going to start this other plot point and introduce this character to that point. How does it resolve at the end? So really, from A to Z, you have to be thinking about how you can really write in those situations, and you have to be really careful with them. So the film I chose is called Wild Tales. It's an 2014 Argentina film that essentially tells these separate stories that eventually all revolve around violence and vengeance. And the film, like I said, has multiple plot points. You're focusing on different characters dealing with different things, but the same thing, vengeance. And the film does a really good job as well with the character arcs that each of those characters go through, where they start, where they end, with one particular character that I got invested to and was happy to see that payoff as well. So the movie does a good job of doing that. And at the same time, however, at the same time, I felt like I got lost in some of the concepts that they were trying to do with these characters. Like, I get what this character's trying to do, but when does it end? Like, is it going to end? So, but other than that, it's just a minor nitpick, but the film really does a good job of really tying all the plots together and going from A to Z, making us feel for these characters, and then wrapping it all up in a nice little bow and sending them off in good ways. And for the worst elements of the film, I couldn't really think of any. Like, there were some characters that I felt did come out of nowhere, but then again, you're following different people all the time throughout the film. So it's okay if you get a little lost because they may be insufficient to the story. So it's not bad. So how I use this week's theory with writing, it's everything. It's from the beginning of your script to the end of your script, multiple rewrites, changing how a character is going to be from the beginning to the end, how it can be flipped. And really, it's a process as well with plot points that you kind of have to craft and master very quickly. Otherwise, it can just fall apart on you. And learning from the film in regards to this, it really isn't, it's really a challenge to kind of put all these characters together in the story and make it work. And the connections I can find for other films is Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction, where yet again it's a bunch of characters who have their own plot points, but yet again they come together in the end and they get their resolution solved very quickly, and you understand why when Tarantino said he shifted things around where the end may be at the beginning and the beginning may be at the end to kind of craft the piece of how each character's story is random and can all interconnect. So it does a really good job of doing that, and as well as like Avengers Infinity War, where you have different plots going on with different characters, but they all come together at the end, and it works for what the film is. So my insights, these are very important pieces of your script. They're very important to your story, mostly your story, and it's important that you work hard and master these little crafts. So, in conclusion, deepening characters and their story arcs, they are important. They can be done well if done right and taken care of. And plot points, essentially, you need to work on a really good way to make them work and see if they can all intertwine together and potentially come out to very good conclusions for each character. So my citations are Billy Mernit for deepening characters and defining their arcs, and Side Field with plot points. My name is Justin, and this has been journal entry number 9, and I hope you have a good day. Peace.